back to Wargaming World, to Natal 1879, and to a game of the men who would be kings. So welcome back to a new scenario, and this game is entitled Saving Major Cobblestone. And just before we start, I'm just going to say thank you to Christopher Wednesday Smith, who came up with the name of Major Cobblestone. So this is the reason why we've named this scenario after Major Cobblestone. So we've identified, I haven't put together these figures for him. I'd put a competition out for subscribers to put a name out for one of our games, and Christopher quite kindly responded, so well done. This is his prize, as it were, that we've named the game after his suggestion, and indeed I've put together some figures for it, and that's why we're having this game, to see if we can get Major Cobblestone off the board and patched up so we'll be ready for the next battle. So, just to explain the idea of this particular game, is that the British are withdrawing. You'll see that we have some wounded troops here, as well as some Zulu prisoners, and the British have been attacked in the morning by the Zulus, and so they realise that they need to move away from their defensive position, and they're going to move along this road. Now, this sort of dirt track is to go past the gorge here at the river, and they're going to escape at this point here. They're going to ford the river and get across. So the aim of the game is very, very simple, is that can the British withdraw successfully? However, not surprisingly, we also have our Zulu forces who will be approaching them and attacking from this hill. Now, I will go into some detail about how we play the game, but let's start by taking a look at the forces and at our leaders. So we start off with the British force, and we have 3 units, all of whom are regulars, but they're all also elite, which means that we're an extra point for each of the units, which gives us 21 points in total. And for the 4th unit, we're going to spend only 3 points on this British half unit at the back. So what that means is that it's a unit made up of wounded troops, as well as others. They're taking the ammunition across, and also protecting these Zulu prisoners as well. Now, they won't fire, they aren't armed with rifles to use aggressively. However, if they are attacked, they will fight in combat. So that's costing the British 3 points for this half-sized elite force. And here are our Zulus. We have 7 units in total, along with 7 leaders, and the front 4 are standard tribal troops, and the 3 units at the back also have the additional feature of being fierce warriors. So all 4, the front 4, are 3 points, and the units at the back, the 3 units at the back, are 4 points. Just thought we might take a look at the tabletop just before we start. So this is the British line. We're about 35 inches away from the Zulus, so this is how we set up. We've got our force in the back there, just getting away from their previous position. That's where they've been holding, and they're going to move constantly across this road. So the unit in front, led by the oxen, will move 6 inches every single turn. So I normally roll to see how many units are activated, but this unit will be automatically activated, and it's going to take about 10 turns altogether to get to the ford and try and get across. Obviously that means if they're not stopped beforehand by the Zulus. And then we've got our 3 units here, and we're going to take a look at the leaders and know their capabilities. Now, just taking a look at the other end of the table, we've got our massed Zulu forces, and we've got our 3 main fierce fighters there at the back. We've got the troops that are coming over the hill, and then we've got our first unit at the front there to obviously make the British aware that they are advancing. We've also got another unit down here at the bottom, so we've got 7 in total, and they're going to contest certainly at the ford, but obviously this ground in the middle, which is our going to be our battlefield realistically. Now I need to look at our leaders, and we have 10 in total, so this is quite a lot of dice rolling. But when I roll the 3 dice here, the red dice will be for the leadership value, the blue will be the first die roll for the trait, and the green will be the second die roll for the trait. So if you've seen this before, you'll understand how this works. So we'll start with the 3 British leaders. Leader number 1. So 5, 1, 4. A good leader, so 5 is the leadership, but his unit may never move at the double, just too unfit, unfortunately. Second unit. 3, 1, 1. Unfortunately, it's the worst roll we could have. So the leadership is 10 for the British, a very poor leader indeed. And the final roll. 6, 3, 1. Well, it's another very poor roll. Although the leadership is 5, unfortunately, this leader, whenever they want to make an order, we need to make a roll. If we get a 1, it's the opposition who make the decision on what they do. First of the 7 Zulu leaders. 3, 5, 6. An inspirational leader. You can re-roll 1 failed rally test. Second leader. 5, 1, 1. Much like the British leader, we have the worst possible type. This is a leadership of 10. Leader number 3. 5, 4, 3. Unfortunately, the gentleman has a bottle, and here we're going to have to roll when each test is going to be made, whether we run with a 6 or an 8. Leader number 4. 3, 6, 6. This is a hero and a leadership of 4. Two, 2, 6. A leadership of 7, but a +2 if a successful order of at the double is made. Leader number 6. 2, 5, 2. A leadership of 7, but a lucky leader who can make 1 re-roll of all dice once in the game. And the final leader with a 1, 6, 5. Destined for greatness. This leader on 7 will ensure that they can have a free move for a unit and then can do an additional action on the same turn. I think that was a lot of rolling, so it gives us a clear indication about the game. It's got harder suddenly for the British, and we'll see whether we can actually advance past any orders and see how we can go in this game. I think it's just got a lot harder. Right, I just need to add in a couple of house rules. I use these because this is a solo game, and so along with the unpredictability of the leaders, I also want to make the phases themselves slightly different. That means that in each turn when each force has a phase, at the end of it I roll a d6, and if I get a 6, then that force will have another free phase. Again, at the end of that we roll, and if we continue to get 6s, they keep going, so that's one difference. Also add some friction by adding the fact that each of the forces have to also roll to see how many units can be activated. In the case of the British, I roll a d3, and if we have a 1, 2, then it's a 1, 3, 4, a 2, 5, 6, a 3. We roll that to see how many can be activated. One point is that the unit which is carrying Major Cobblestone will move every single phase. It will move 6 inches, and that could be a hindrance really to some of the units here, particularly with some poor leadership, but that's going to be part of the game to see how it runs. With the Zulus we have a total of 7 units, and I roll a d6. The maximum obviously then is a 6, so they're going to have 1 unit which can't be activated, but we're going to see how well that can be coordinated. Again, it could be a problem, particularly if we're rolling 1s when we have such large forces. So, with all leadership calculated and the house rules covered, let's start with turn 1. So here we go with the first phase in turn 1. British move first. Let's see how many units are going to move. So we can use all 3 units. So the British have all 3 units moving, and of course we have our baggage too, but we need to test with our leaders to see whether they'll actually move. Now before we do anything with this unit, we need to test whether they will actually obey. I need to roll a d6 and not get a 1. Okay, so we can test for a particular order. We need to just move forward with our leadership. We need 5 or more, and we get that, so we can move 6 inches. 6 is fine, although in reality they only needed a 3. Leader had 5, and we've got +2 on the discipline because they are an elite force. Now with this unit we've got a much bigger problem. Leadership is 10, and although we've got an elite force, it means we need 8s to move. And that's 9, so that's fine. And with the final units, we just need 3s effectively. That's fine again. Do the British get a 6 for another phase? No, they don't. Enter the Zulu phase and see how many units can be activated. Unfortunately, it's just the 1. Right, so the Zulus have moved here up alongside the river. They've got a free move here, so we don't need to test it, but that's the end of their phase. Do the Zulus get a repeat phase? No, they don't, so that's the end of turn 1. Turn 2. So turn 2, let's see how many British units can be activated. 2 units. So if we can activate 2 British units, we'll do the one that's on the road moving forward and the one next to it if we can move it. Again, before I test this one, I need to roll and not get a 1, otherwise the Zulus will decide what move it makes. 2, so it's fine. Effectively we only need a 3. That's fine, so it'll move. The unit next to it with poor leadership needs an 8. And it'll move as well. Final test is to see whether the British get another phase, which they don't. Well, for the British, certainly so far so good. It's the Zulu phase. How many units can be activated? Oh, terrible. Just the 1 again. Well, the Zulus have moved, not surprisingly, to block off the ford, but there's no support for them. So this looks quite challenging early on for the Zulus, but do they get another phase? So, the Zulus really need another phase, but wouldn't it always be handy? Unfortunately, they don't, and that's the end of turn 2. Start of turn 3, and everything seems to be going very well for the British, so let's see how many units can be activated. This is where things become a little bit more challenging. Just the 1. So, let's see how we move, and how things progress. So in a situation where we only have 1 unit being activated, then we're going to have this unit moving forward again, and automatically we have the section behind with the major being carried. That will automatically move, but let's see whether this unit actually does what it needs to do. So everything other than a 1 to make sure the Zulus don't make the choice about what action they make, and it is a 1. So the opponent can choose which order that this unit makes. Now it can't fire or fight against its own side, but we can have a choice about what it does. So the order I'm going to make is for this unit to move at the double in this direction. We just need to see whether we pass that order first of all. So well-disciplined troops, they just passed the order, so we needed a 3 and we got 4. So they'll now move 6 inches plus 1d6, 10 inches, and we need to bear in mind some of the terrain that might be in the way, but that's 10 inches in the wrong direction. And so this is where we finished. We've had the unit move out of the way and really into a very poor position, but as I've said beforehand, this section continues to move forward, and would be a particular problem because it's walking straight into the Zulus. Do the British have a repeat phase? No, they don't. Let's see how many Zulus can be activated. 4 units. Okay, so we've had 4 Zulu units move. We've got 3 now on the hill, and we've got a further unit now further down, moving forward and advancing here. Do the Zulus get another phase? No, they don't. That's the end of turn 3. So I think at the end of turn 3 we've got a different looking tabletop now, with the Zulus appearing, coming over the hill, and yeah, some problems here for the British amongst some poor leadership. Turn 4, and how many units can be activated for the British? We have 2 units, and see how we go. We've got an obvious problem where this unit is now going to move up, the one with the wounded, as it continues to approach towards now the Zulus who are blocking the ford. So we need to get this unit in front of it, I think, but it also has poor leadership, so this unit in particular we have to test with a leadership of 8, even though it has elite forces, to see whether we can start to get in between this unit and our Zulus. So I'm looking for an 8 and see if the unit can move forward, and we've got one. Second unit I want to move forward is this one, and we need to do that needing a 5, and then we are elite, so it's just 3s. Anything but a double 1, and yeah, we're fine. And finally, do the British get a repeat phase? No, they don't. Zulu phase, and how many units can be activated? Again, just the 1. Now, the Zulus can't advance close enough to engage. They aren't going to be successful even with an active double move, so we've got this close. It brought a halt both to the standard regiment and the unit with the major, so we'll see if the Zulus get another phase and what the British do in the following turn. Do the Zulus get another phase? No, they don't. Okay, next turn, so therefore how many units can be activated for the British? So we've got 2 units. Now in this situation we can't advance our wounded. It would be ridiculous to think they just walked into the Zulus in front of them, so therefore we can operate with 2 other units to see how we react. So we've got this unit in front and this unit just behind. I'll do 2 orders for them in a moment. Okay, so we've got 2 orders, and neither of them need a test because both are going to be firing. This unit is going to fire at short range into the Zulus, needing 5s to hit. 5s with 12 dice. That doesn't look a great roll at all, and that's 1 casualty. Make sure it isn't the Zulu leader, not a double 1. It isn't, it's just a casualty. We need to take a pinning test, so the unit has a leadership of 6, it's taken 1 casualty, so let's see what the outcome is. That's fine, they aren't pinned. I'm also going to fire with this unit at the Zulus approaching on the hill, It's long range, so it's still 5s, and we're also going to have a bit obscured, I think, because of the soft cover. So I'm going to factor that in with the roll. 5s again. It's a much more successful roll. So we have a total of 4 hits. So with the British units with the flag firing at the Zulus there at the bottom of the hill, we've got soft cover. Now my interpretation of the rule is that it needs to add an additional 1 for casualties. Now we've got 4 casualties in total, but in order to remove 2 figures, I think we need to make 5 casualties. So therefore it means that in actual fact we're only going to remove 1 figure from the Zulus, as we always round down. Let's just ensure it's not a leader, and it isn't. Unit needs to take a pin test. Now they've got a very poor leadership, which is 10, and they've also taken the casualties, so we need to get a very good roll, but we have. So neither unit are pinned. So only 2 casualties there from the first firing. That's a very disappointing return for the British. Do the British get a repeat phase? No, they don't. How many Zulu units can be activated? All 6. Well, the first of the 6 units is the Zulus to attack here, so we need to take a test to see whether they'll go into attack. We need 6 or more, and yes, they will. So we have 13 British against 16 Zulus. Both will need 5s because this Zulu unit are not fierce fighters. And the reason why we're in this situation is really because of the failure of the British in their last fire to make any real headway in the Zulus. And although we might have thought that we could have had the units not advancing as far, and therefore having the Zulus come onto them and fire potentially volley fire, the issue is that we've had to move at the pace of this unit, so really we haven't been able to avoid that situation. So let's see what happens in combat. Okay, British first, needing 5s with 13 dice. That's 4 kills in total. So 16 Zulus needing 5s. And that's 5 kills in total. Let's just check that it wasn't the British leader. Nope. And the Zulu leader. No. So as a result, the British are pushed back and they have greater casualties, and they will automatically fail in a pin test because the leadership's 10, we're elites down to 8, but they've had 5 casualties, so that will be 13, and they can't achieve that, so they are pinned. Right, with our other orders, the remaining Zulus are really streaming forward. So we have units that have come down from the hill, and then others which have gone from the top half, and others also advancing. So you can see there we've got 2 more units at the top, 2 have come down here, 5th is now advancing, and we've already had this unit in contact. So let's just see if the Zulus get another phase. No, they don't, and that's the end of the turn. Turn 6, we need to see how many British units can be activated, and certainly the first one will be that we need to rally our units which are struggling after combat. So we've got 2 units, so we'll have a combination then of rallying and possibly firing 2. This unit needs to rally. It's got 1 point for being pinned, and its leadership is 10, but we have an elite force which is a +2. It gives us a 9 as a requirement. Certainly need a good roll, and unfortunately it's only an 8, so it's unsuccessful. Okay, it fails, and it also needs to make a retreat of a half move, so it has done, and that's where we finished. The second order is that this nearest unit is now going to fire at the Zulus who previously attacked. 12 dice, needing 5s. Some very ordinary rolling, just 2 casualties. Test if it's the leader. No, it isn't. We need to test whether the unit is pinned. Its leadership is 6. We've taken 2 casualties, therefore we need to get a relatively decent roll, and that's not it, unfortunately, so they are pinned. Finally, do the British get another phase? No, they don't. Let's see how many Zulu units are activated. It's 4. First thing we need to do is to see whether we can rally the units. They've just been pinned. They need 7 this time. 11, they're absolutely fine. The second unit that can be activated is here, and they're within reach of the wounded group, and so we need to take a test. Now the only thing I would say is that this leader is a very poor one, so he's got a leadership of 10, so we need a 10 to see if he can make contact. Unfortunately it fails to attack. So this is the first of the other 2 units that have been activated. They've come down off the hill and are now approaching the British unit. And finally we've also got another unit which has now come down from the top of the hill and again is approaching further forward. Do the Zulus get another phase? No, they don't. So it's the end of turn 6. We're on to turn 7. Well, we're on to turn 7, it's the British phase, and the British appear to have been pretty derailed in this game fairly early on, so I'm not altogether too sure how we can go further forward for a British victory, but I mean, we could use the Zulus here and attack that unit really to close off the game, but I'm not going to. I'm going to see if we can get them attacking these units in a way that I think is more perhaps realistic. But anyway, let's start by looking at how many units the British can activate. All 3. Now I need to start by looking at the British in terms of whether they can rally for the unit. We need a really good roll here, and that's certainly it. So the unit can rally. With this unit, our second unit, we've got a problem because we've effectively got 2 targets. Got the one that's now advancing just behind the trees there, and the one up here. Because this unit can't fire, we're still struggling. And although I am going to try and activate this unit to move back next to the wounded section, we don't have enough firepower, I think, to halt the two Zulu units. So I'm going to choose this one. See if we can get some inroads, needing 5s once again. 5s with 12 dice. That still looks a very modest return, and it's just 2 hits. Is it the Zulu leader? No, it isn't. And are they pinned? Yes, they are. So I'm going to look to do an order for this unit, but we need to roll again. Make sure I don't get a 1 first of all. Avoid the 1, and we have. Right, we're going to move this unit 6 inches back in this direction. That unit have plugged a gap, so we'll see whether the British have another phase. No, they don't, so we're off to the Zulus. The Zulus have 4 units. Firstly, we need to test the rally, and that's certainly a fail. Now, you may remember when we were doing the leadership tests that this leader is an inspirational leader, and we are able to re-roll rally tests once, so that's what we're going to do. And this time, unfortunately, we fail, so they stay where they... Oh, sorry, so I think they failed the rally, so I think they need to retreat 4 inches. So they've retreated here. Actually, the inspirational leader was vital, because with a roll of 3, we had to deduct 1 with a pinned marker, then it would have been a 2, so they would have routed, but thankfully we can test it and they can continue. Now this unit wants to move at the double into contact with the British here, but we need to test our leader. If you remember, our leader here is the gentleman with the bottle, so we need to test what his leadership is before we can actually test the leadership. Right, we'll have bottle in hand. So 1, 2, 3, leadership is 6, 4, 5, 6, leadership is 8. Leadership is 8. So can the unit move at the double to the British? Yes, it can. There's a 4 on the other side, so yes, it gets into contact. So they're in contact. So we have 13 against 17, and we've really got to have some luck for the British here in terms of the rolling today. Both need 5s. The Zulus aren't fierce fighters. Let's see how we go on. So British 13 dice, needing Lady Luck to be on their side. And at first glance, it certainly doesn't look like it. That looks like 2 casualties. 17 Zulus needing the same thing, 5s. Fortunately, it's 7 casualties for the British. Test if it's the Zulu leader. No, it isn't. British leader. No, it's not. British need a pin test. 10. I think that they're okay. Our leadership is 5. 7 casualties take us to 12, but their elite means we needed 10, so that's okay. For the final 2 other units that moved, we've had movement down the hill. This unit is now backing up this one, and finally one of our fierce fighters are now down towards the bottom of the hill. Do the Zulus have another turn? Another phase, I should say. Yes, they do. And how many units? 2. One must be the rally test, which passes. Second move will be for this unit to follow up, but we need to test whether they can. Again, the gentleman has a bottle. What does the leadership mean? They need to pass with a 6. 6 to attack, and they will. Well, we are now 6 against 15, so I think we really are in a mopping up situation for the Zulus. 6 British needing 5s, and 2 kills. 15 Zulus needing 5s. That looks like almost everyone. In fact, it's only 5. Is the Zulu leader killed? No. Is the British leader killed? Oh, no, is the leader pinned? Yes. Right, somewhat early in the piece, I'm going to call it because the British are simply going to be wiped out, really. There isn't a possibility to do what we want to do. We've lost a lot of firepower, and actually a lot of the reason for this is because of the poor leaders to start off with. I lost one of the sections, so I couldn't be firing 3 sections at the same time. Possibly set a very different or difficult task with this wagon as well. Possibly it should have been that it was behind the other units until the whole thing was cleared, and I might try and do this scenario again in a slightly different way to do so, but I think rather than continue just roll and find the inevitable, I think we'll call it here, and I'll put together another game of the men who would be kings. And finally, just to say thank you. Thanks for watching. I'm glad I've watched it. If you've got some comments and thoughts, then I'd really appreciate it. It'd be great if we could grow the channel a little bit more as far as the men who would be kings is concerned. I've got the channel that I run. We do a lot of World War II games and some World War I stuff as well. But if you want more of this type of video, then please subscribe, build the channel, and come up with your thoughts, and we can put in some new and different scenarios. I just want to say thanks again to Christopher for the suggestion of the name, and it was great to put that in. Unfortunately, I don't think we got too much success there for Major Cobblestone and saving him, but maybe we'll try that again in a slightly different format. So, thanks once again, and we'll see you soon.